So section 0.3 is called quadratic functions. And example 1 will say graph this equation using a table of values. So to start our table of values, we kind of want to figure out where should I even pick for my x values. The easiest way to do that is going to be to use x equals negative b over 2a, our axis of symmetry, where a is my first term, my first number, not the letters, not the variables. B is my second one, the one that goes with the x. So a goes with the x squared, b goes with the x, and c goes by itself. So if I want to do negative b over 2a, I'm going to have right here x equals negative 8 over 2 times 2, or x equals 8 over 4, which means x equals 2. I'm going to go in the center of these x values, up and down, and put a 2 here. Then I'm just going to do some numbers on either side. So I'm going to go, like if this was a number line, right, 2 would be here, 1, 0, and then 3, 4. Those are the numbers I'm going to use. So to do a table of values, we can plug this into our equation to figure out what it equals. I'm going to use Desmos. So I just got the Desmos app. And I am going to type in a function. I'm going to type in f of x. Oops, not f times x. Got to get those parentheses. F of x equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 4. Okay, so it gave me a graph. Technically, I can do this without a graph. All I'm really trying to do is plug in all of these numbers for x to figure out what it equals, what my y value is, but I'm lazy and I have a calculator, so I'm going to use my calculator. So when I do this, now that I have f of x in Desmos, it is smart enough to know now that if I press f of 0, like if I plugged a 0 in for my x value, it would give me a 4 for my y value, or my f of x value. And now I can just real quick and easy type this in. If I plugged in a 1, I would get a negative 2. If I plugged in a 2, I would get a negative 4. If I plugged in a 3, oops, not 23. If I plugged in a 3, it gives me a negative 2. And if I plug in a 4, it gives me a 4. So now I have a table of values so I can graph this thing by hand. And notice all of my x values are positive, so I only need the positive side of the graph. Notice my y values are positive and negative, that's why I did the positive and the negative side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just up to 4 because those are the numbers I used. And for my y values, I need to go to 4 in both directions. And I'm just making tick marks that are pretty evenly spaced. This one was kind of bad right here. But if you're careful, you can get them pretty evenly spaced and you don't need graph paper. All right, so when I have this, now I'm going to put a dot over at 0, up at 4. I'm going to put a dot over at 1 and at negative 2, then over at 2 and at negative 4, over at 3 and at negative 2, and over at 4, up at 4. Then I can draw my nice smooth curve. Make sure you're not just like straight up connecting the dots. You need to make it curved. Get your arrows on the end of those, and that is our graph. That's all you got to do with this problem. And you could go over to your graph and double check that it looks the same, and yep, if I tap right up here, this dot is at 0, 4. That one is at 0.586. Yeah, that looks about right. I'm crossing in between 0 and 1. Right down here, negative 2, sorry, 2, negative 4. And you can just double check some dots there to make sure they look right. On your phone, you can also just tap and drag your finger, and it will show you where exactly you're at. So that's how you do example 1.